I've got two scenarios for you when it comes to negotiation. The first is if you want to raise because you're very good at your job. In other words, for performance reasons. The second is if you want to raise at your job because you're being dramatically underpaid. So I'm going to help you with both of those. First, if you want a salary increase because of performance reasons, because you've been doing really well, what do? How do you go about that? Here's what I would suggest. The bad way is to walk into your boss's office and demand it. Hey, I really want a raise. I'm so good at my job. What do you think the first thing a boss does when that happens? It's a bad sign. There's a psychological term called reactance. It's when someone kind of tells you what not to do. The same thing is kind of a cousin of this. You get defensive and you start coming up with reasons why you should not give that person a raise. So you do not want to paint someone into a corner. What I like to do is take a little bit longer and make it part of a really feel-good exercise, because our career is a long time, right? If I'm going to get a $5,000 or $10,000 raise just at this job, which is then going to be compounded over the rest of my lifetime, for me that's worth a few months to do it right. Here's what I would do. Go into your boss's office and be very clear. Set up a special meeting and say, look, I want to do the best possible job I can do here. I don't want to just be an average performer. I want to do an extraordinary job. Here's what I've been doing for the last 6 months. Here are my achievements, by the way, written out, of course, briefcase technique style. And you say, I want to do an extraordinary job in the next 6 months. And I'd like to ask you, if I do, I'd like to discuss a compensation increase. Well, what you're doing here is something very clever. First of all, you're saying, you're positioning yourself to help the company. I want to do an extraordinary job for you and for the company. You're not talking about you and your stupid salary needs. No one cares about you. Second, what you're doing is you're explaining that if you do this, if you are an extraordinary candidate, you would like to discuss additional compensation. Well, who can disagree with that? Because what the boss is thinking is great. If this person doesn't do an extraordinary job, I just won't pay them more. Perfect. So you do have to do an extraordinary job. There's no tricks about it. You actually do have to exceed expectations. Now, here's the critical part. You say, here's what I would think would make me an extraordinary candidate. I've come up with 3 things. I like to do 3 to 5. Anything more than that becomes highly unmanageable. I'd prefer 3. So there are 3 things. For example, I'd like to drive new users up 25%. I'd like to improve engagement by 15%. And revenues, I'd like to improve those 7%. Okay, and then you can also include some process things like, take over this project and manage that and launch this conference successfully. What does that mean? Successfully doesn't mean anything. You have to get deep into the metrics. Successfully means 250 people attend. Great. So you've got a super specific list now of what would make you an extraordinary candidate. They agree. They sign off on it. You say, do you agree? If we do this, you'll discuss a significant salary increase, and he'll say, okay, yeah, if we hit these goals, absolutely. Because remember, if you improve revenue 7%, that's probably going to be worth something to the company. Whatever that number is, it's going to be material to the company. So you go off, you do the work, but here's something most people forget. Don't disappear for 6 months. Every 2 weeks, check in with your boss. Hey, boss. Wanted to let you know, we're on track for 250 people attending. Oh, just want to let you know, boss, we already exceeded our number. We've got 300 people who are coming and 100 people on the wait list. So you're constantly letting them know. Here's why. When you go in for that 3-month or 6-month discussion about your salary, it should be no surprise to anybody. You should be walking in and that boss should be like, shit, I got to write that check. It should not be where you are bringing up a surprise and you're just sort of brandishing him with numbers. No. He knows, you know, everybody knows, because you've kept in touch. I call this the closing the loop technique, and I explain it more in some of my other material. So that is how you effectively get a massive salary increase. The best part of this is that you have to work for it, and your boss feels great to write you that check. Now, I've had other people do this. They've negotiated salary increases with me. We discussed it on performance, and there's nothing better for a boss than to say, you know what, I'm happy to write you a larger check. You just have to perform for the business, as opposed to someone going in there demanding that they want more cash because they simply want to fly to Vegas more often. I do not care about your needs. I just don't. A hiring manager does not care. They care about the business. So position yourself that way, and you will be more than likely successful when you go in for your massive salary increase.